There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. May we be seated? Thank you. Statements by members. Honorable Hlophe.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to yourself, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Premier, Honorable MECs, Honorable Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Honorable Members. Honorable Speaker, the ANC is concerned about the escalating incident of the gender-based violence and femicide. Abduction of children for body harvesting and killings in the province. A 24-year-old woman together with her 2-year child daughter were found dead. Their bodies were discovered on Monday, on the 6th of June, at the house in Siatemba Informal Settlement in at Balf. The police found a woman lying in the kitchen floor, and the 2-year-old lifeless body was found in the bedroom with an injury on the neck. Honorable Speaker, the killing of women and children in the country is a cause of concern. And what is a serious concern is that the perpetrators are former convicts who are out on parole. We need to offer more support to women in order to assist them when faced with this violence. I would like to express our appreciation for the good work done by police on arresting a 32-year-old suspect. The suspect was on court on Thursday, the 9th, facing 2 counts of murder and defeating the ends of justice. We urge our police to continue to do the good work that they are doing in fighting the scourge of crime against women and children in our province. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable MEC Nchani.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. The issue on the gender-based violence of women and femicide, it's a matter that we have raised also as we're delivering our budget speech, but also as a department, we've highlighted that we are not working alone, but we are working with this SAPS. We are also working with the Department of Culture, Sports and Recreation, because it's where you have also your moral regeneration, because the killing, it's not about policing and arresting, but it's about the societal matter. It needs everybody on board. And also, we will request that also we raise this matter with the Minister of Justice, because most of these people who are killing our women and children are people who are out on parole. To raise these issues with the parole board, because it's really now a concern that maybe the parole processes are not really done in a proper manner, that you are saying this person can go back to communities. But as a department, working with all the stakeholders, would continue fighting the gender-based violence and femicide. Thank you.
Are there any member statements? Honorable Mlombo.
Mhlonishwa Somlomo, ake ngibulise kuwe, ngibulise Somlomo nakundunankulu, kubahlonishwa bonke abakhona lana, kuzihambeli zethu, ivakashi zethu ezingama members of the public, nakubaqosheli bethu abangama members of the media okuyibona abahambisa lo mbiko walenhlangano yanamhlanje. Somlomo, I rise on behalf of the African National Congress to deliver a statement to applaud and congratulate our only team in the province, our only football team, which is TX Galaxy Football Club, which is better known as the Rockets, for representing us and maintaining their status in the Premier Soccer League. Honorable Speaker, TX Galaxy is a South African club based in Camille Rivier near Siyabusa that plays in the PSL. The club is named after its owner, Tum Sugazi, who purchased the NFD League license from Cape Town All Stars in May 2018. The Rockets made history in their maiden season in the Glad Africa Championship when they lifted the Nedbank Cup, and after they have completed one of the biggest teams, which I will not mention by name, and competed in the CAF Confederation Cup for the first time. By doing so, Honorable Speaker, they became the first team in the South African football to win the Nedbank Cup while campaigning in the Glad Africa Championship, which is known as the National First Division. In 2020, the club purchased the Premier Soccer League division status of Highland Park FC and became one of the professional teams in the PSL. Honorable Speaker, we kindly request that this Honorable House give a maximum support to one of our own team in the Mpumalanga province, which is TX Galaxy or Team Sugazi, the Rockets. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Shongwe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to the Honorable Premier and Honorable members. As a department, we want to agree with the statement by the Chief Whip to say this team, the only team in the PSL, needs our full support. As I'm speaking, next week we're going to have a meeting between Bombela, MTPA, Treasury, and the Department of Culture, Sports and Recreation, where we're going to meet to see how we can best support this team. And we're going to present a report to the Honorable Premier. And we want to agree that indeed they are receiving full support. In 2019, a team led by the Honorable Premier went to Durban. And we won't shy away, Honorable Premier and Honorable Chief Whip, to say this team, our pride from Mpumalanga, beat Kaizer Chiefs. And we can't say they just beat another team, Sifihle, Bangoba at Durban, Bashaya Kaizer Chiefs, Kungako Bagwati Bangene, PSL. And we want to further congratulate them for maintaining this status of being in the PSL, because that is our pride as Mpumalanga. That's why we say now we are benchmarking with other provinces to say how are they supporting other teams in the PSL. Then we're going to make sure that they get the necessary support. Phambili nge-TX Galaxy phambili.
Honorable Nyembe.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Ngibingelele indlu nomkhandlu wonke ngaphakathi. Honorable Speaker, the economic freedom fighters are disgusted by the violent scenes that happened on the 9th of June 2022, the violence that visited our lovely Roses by Parliament Protection Services is one that needs to be condemned by all in our society. South Africa faces a serious problem of violence against women. We cannot have a parliament that seems to endorse violence to settle differences. It sends a very wrong message. It is ironic that the Discussing Violence Act was sanctioned by the Speaker who is a member of the ANC, who in the 90s, when our people were ready to fight for their country, said that dialogue is the best way to resolve conflicts. Today, they are in government, they are in power, and they are unable to use dialogue to solve an impasse in parliament. Does the ANC only believe in dialogue when it comes to dealing with settler community? But when dealing with fellow South Africans, it only knows violence. I thank you.
Honorable Mashilo, Leader of Government Business.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and indeed my greetings to the Premier and the members at large. Well, what occurred on the day is not what we refer as violence. We can only refer as undermining and disrespect of the House. I take the Honorable Member is referring the matter in National Parliament. There are rules. If the Speaker rules that you must leave the House, you must leave the House. If you create violence, you can only distinguish fire with fire. This is what has happened. And therefore, there is no way that Honorable Member can come here and want to compare what occurred when members were outside and the members that occurred in the 1990s. From where we sit, if there is a matter, the person must open the case and the police investigate, and the arrest will be effected. That's what our government is doing. So there is no grandstanding on this matter. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Grobler.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I would also like to greet you and welcome you back. Also, my good morning to the Premier and all the other MECs. And then I wanted to greet the Leader of the Official Opposition, but I see he only made like a one-day appearance on Friday and then he's not here again. So, but I wanted to greet him, Honourable Speaker. Here he is. Ladies and gentlemen, Honourable Sidibe, I just wanted to greet you. Because I heard we must greet the Leader of the Official Opposition. So. Honourable Speaker, I rise to deliver a member statement on behalf of the Democratic Alliance. Honourable Speaker, on the 6th of June 2022, Samkelo Ngubane was arrested by the Hawks in Mbombela, and after which he appeared in the Nelspruit Magistrate Court on charges of contravening sections of the Public Finance Management Act. As the above stems from the investigation of the SIU into alleged fraud and corruption in the procurement of PPE, the DA welcomes these arrests. This comes right after the arrest of the Deputy Director of COCTA, Mr. Raymond Manzini, and his brother. Honourable Speaker, it is stated that despite appearing in court, the CFO has since returned to work and that his own colleagues believe that he will be tampering with the evidence. Being the CFO, this puts him in a very crucial position to promote the independence of the investigation. I call for Mr. Ngubane to be suspended. Can the MEC thus explain if Mr. Ngubane will be suspended up until the case is concluded, and if not, why not? I thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Mashilo.
Thank you, Speaker. Well, the matter is receiving attention. Obviously, last week when the Honorable MEC presented the matter, clarified the matter very well after Honorable Weber raised the matter. However, as government, we are looking at the matter, and precisely like we have done with the rest before, we'll follow that approach. Thank you.
Honorable Weber.
Madam Speaker, I rise to deliver a member statement on behalf of the Freedom Front Plus. But may I take this opportunity to greet my friends and to greet my foes. Yes, I greet my foes, notwithstanding the fact that they are my foes. Madam Speaker, it concerns the Freedom Front Plus that there are allegations now of bribery concerning a 2 billion security tender in the province. Now, Madam Speaker, the Freedom Front Plus has raised concerns in the past about the rates and tenders that are awarded, which are significantly higher than the market rate. The Freedom Front Plus has raised concerns that the Auditor General didn't take notice of the possibility that the rates are not in line with market prices. Our concerns were disregarded by the department and by the Auditor General. Now we learned with concern that awarding of contracts are now being challenged in court with allegations of bribery and corruption that could be involved in the awarding of tenders. This emphasizes the necessity to take precautions in this regard by the department. Neither the public nor members of the legislature have insight in awarding of contracts. We have to rely on the Auditor General as the watchdog. Unfortunately, the Auditor General seems to turn a blind eye to this scourge of awarding contracts at a much higher price than the market prices. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Mkachwa.
Yeah, no, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to the Honorable Premier, MECs, and colleagues. Well, Honorable Speaker, as far as provincial treasury is concerned, we will continue to support provincial departments in making sure that the processes of awarding tenders are beyond reproach. That's how far we are interacting with the process to ensure that indeed any element of fraud and corruption it's dealt with according to the prescripts of our government. Thank you very much.
Executive statements. I am informed that there are no executive statements. Motions without notice. Honorable Sithole.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and greetings to the House. I rise to deliver a motion without notice on behalf of the Democratic Alliance. Honourable Speaker, the latest Africa Ratings Municipal Financial Sustainability Index report paints a bleak picture regarding our municipalities in Mpumalanga. Honourable Speaker, residents and businesses are suffering as majority of our municipalities in Mpumalanga have failed miserably in their governance responsibilities and are on the verge of collapse. Honourable Speaker, the report further confirmed once again that the best performing and financially stable municipalities in South Africa are run by the DA, with Midvaal as the #1 most financially sustainable municipality in South Africa. Municipalities like Mbombela, Emalahleni, Tabachew, and Msukalekwa are confirmed to be unable to settle their current and short-term obligations, which means that their current liabilities exceed their current assets. Honourable Speaker, the ANC's years of financial mismanagement, political instability, and cadre deployment has rendered our municipalities completely ineffective. I therefore move that a skills audit be conducted for all finance managers in our municipalities to ensure that only qualified and competent people are in a position to handle municipal finances. I also move that this House take note that the DA is the only party with a proven track record in delivering efficient and effective governance as confirmed by Africa Ratings report. I further move that this House take lessons from the DA good governance. Where the DA governs, there is clear evidence of our excellence in government because the DA gets things done. I thank you.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion. Agree to.
Yes.
Motion is defeated. Are there any motions without notice? Honorable Makarenge.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me greet Honorable Premier, members of the Executive, members of Provincial Legislature, our imported guest, Afshin. I rise to move a motion without notice on behalf of the African National Congress to appreciate and congratulate the Witbank High School in Kangala District to lend a hand to the peoples who found themselves as victims of the recent floods that ravaged Durban and other parts of the province in April 2022. Nhloko ya xikolo, Mr. Austin Usinga, xikolo xa Witbank High School. I munhu loyi loko a fika xikolweni a nga kuma vatsongwana va karhi va yimbelela tinsimu, va yimbelela hi ku tsundzuka vanhu lava va nga lahlekeriwa hi nhundzu hikwalaho ka mpfula leyi nga va kona eDurban. Further noting that Thululwazi High School is one of the 271 schools in KwaZulu-Natal that were affected by April floods. Witbank High School donated a sum of 30,000 to the school and many clothes to pupils and elders. We also want to encourage other schools across the length and breadth of the province to also assist, lend a hand with anything in their disposal. We are inviting the Honorable House to welcome and appreciate the good gesture shown by Witbank High School from Kangala District. I so move.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion. Agreed to? As so agreed. Honorable Weber.
Honourable Speaker, it concerns me that there is only indication of mentioning the official opposition, disregarding in totality the fact that there is a real opposition in this House. Madam Speaker, I rise to deliver a motion without notice. While the problem facing public schools differ in degree and scale, and mirror the spatialization of race and class in Mpumalanga, all public schools, indeed the very idea of public schooling, are under assault. The Freedom Front Plus is gravely concerned about the fact that several public schools in Mpumalanga have not received their grant money from the Department of Education. Several of these schools also cannot open a second bank account as agreed upon with the department, as these schools still await the authorization letters from the department. Despite being allocated more learners, the much needed promised extra classrooms to date have not materialized. Public schools represent public and social goods and not private commodities. They provide schooling to the public for the benefit of the whole society, and as such, the responsibility for the provision of public schooling and education is the government's responsibility. This was already paid through the public's tax money. Yet these schools do not see that money and are reliant on sponsors within its own ranks. Our schools are in trouble, our public schools, if we are forcing schools into a position where they must depend on kind-hearted citizens to foot the bill for broken school toilets, when teaching and support staff who are needed for the proper functioning of schools are deemed to be non-essential for the government to fund, and when qualified SGB teachers are expected to work for the pittance in full-time teaching posts. How a society treats its children and youth is a reflection of its morality. Schools are social institutions that are entrusted with the care and education of children and youth, but when we require teachers to be satisfied to at least receive something, we risk jeopardizing our future. The Freedom Front Plus moves that the department speeds up and finalizes these payments. I thank you, and I so move, Madam Speaker.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion agreed to. As so agreed. Are there any motions without notice? Honorable Mkacho.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Greetings to you, the Deputy Speaker, colleagues in the Executive Council, and honorable members. Honorable Speaker, I rise to move a motion without notice on behalf of the African National Congress to commend the Department of Health in expediting the collection of chronic medication for our people. Patients of government clinics can now choose to receive their chronic medication at a convenient post office instead of collecting it from the clinic. Noting that the service is aimed at patients who live or work closer to post office instead of collecting it from the clinic. Post offices are open until 5 on weekdays and Saturdays mornings, allowing much longer hours for collecting medication. Further noting that according to the post office, queues at its outlets have vastly reduced since the collection point for SRD grants was moved to supermarkets. The Department of Health will send SMSs when the medication is ready for collection, and patients have 14 days to collect it before it is returned to the department. The ANC therefore moved that this House appreciate the department and the post office in expediting the collection of medication for our people. I so move.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion agreed to. Motion is defeated. Are there any motions without notice? Notices of motion. Are there notices of motion? Honorable Weber.
Madam Speaker, I once again rise on behalf of the real opposition in this House. I hereby move, on behalf of the Freedom Front Plus, which is the real opposition in this House, that in our next sitting, this House debates the blatant disregard of our environment when mining groups speculate areas to mine. Large-scale mining takes place without any rehabilitation to the affected environments. Historically, specifically, coal mining has had a significant impact on the environment, and there is substantial evidence of a strong link between environmental pollution for mining activities and the health and well-being of humans and ecosystems in the surrounding vicinities. These impacts can be largely associated with water quality, physical and chemical land degradation, and air pollution through dust fallout and emissions of particulate matters and toxic gases. In particular, AMD from coal mining results in significant pollution of land and water resources. Published literature provides evidence that this environmental pollution may, and often does, have an adverse effect on local ecosystems as well as on community health and livelihoods, particularly on crop and livestock farming. I so move, Madam Speaker.
The motion is noted and will be dealt with accordingly. Are there notices of motion? Formal motions. I am informed that there are no formal motions. We shall proceed to the orders of the day. The Secretary shall read the first order of the day.
It's order number 1, policy and budget speech on vote 1, office of the Premier.
I now call upon the Premier, Honorable R.M. Tshwenitsipane, to deliver the policy and budget speech.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, and the Deputy Speaker, the Chief Whip of the ruling party, honorable members of the Executive Council, honorable members of the Legislature, the head of our administration, Director General Makuku Mampuru, and all officials, HODs, our esteemed citizens following this session through the Facebook platform. Good morning. Honorable Speaker, Charles Dickens would never have imagined that his seminal classic book, A Tale of Two Cities, would describe our lived reality in a year 2022 when he stated that, I quote, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was a season of darkness, it was a spring of hope. It was a winter of despair," close quote. It was the worst of times because when we tabled departmental plans around this time last year, Mpumalanga, like the rest of the country, was experiencing the devastating impact of COVID-19. It was the age of wisdom when His Excellency President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa addressed the nation on measures taken by the 6th administration to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. Madam Speaker, it was the season of darkness when key economic sectors shed dozens of jobs, leaving many families without an income, but it was a spring of hope when State South Africa delivered the good news of a slight improvement in the number of jobs created in the first quarter of this current year. The provincial government is gradually rising above the impact of COVID-19 that affected not only our operations, but the lives of ordinary citizens. We have, as the Office of the Premier, revised the provincial 5-year plan of 2019 to 2024 to align it with the revised National Medium-Term Strategic Framework of 2019-2024. The revised plan is implemented annually through the Provincial Program of Action that is monitored through the Executive Council cluster system. As part of our efforts to adjust to operating under our new normal, the cluster management component of the Office of the Premier has conducted virtual, technical, and political Executive Council meetings via hybrid systems to review progress on the implementation of the strategic interventions outlined in the PPOA. In light of this approach, we shall convene 2 annual Makhutla sessions in October 2022, and the last one would be in February 2023, to review progress and provide further guidance for implementations. We are mindful of the impact the pandemic has had on standards, Madam Speaker. In an attempt to maintain and entrench quality, we have subjected annual performance plans and annual operational plans of the departments to rigorous quality assurance measures through our collaboration of the Department of Planning, Monitoring, and Evaluation in the Presidency. We are satisfied that this extensive quality assurance process ensures that provincial priorities as well as key national priorities from the revised 2019-2024 MTSF find expression in the plans of the departments before they are tabled to the provincial legislature before the commencement of the financial year. Key catalytic projects emanating from our provincial sector plans, including the Mpumalanga Economic Recovery and Reconstruction Plan, are also considered for implementations in the draft plans and IDPs for local municipalities. These plans are monitored on quarterly basis through the electronic quarterly performance reporting system. In pursuit of an accountable and transparent governance, information from this system is published on our provincial website every quarter. As part of our efforts to review and repurpose the functioning of our state-owned entities in order to optimize operational output, we shall subject our entities to independent assessment to gauge whether operations and structures are aligned to the provincial strategic objectives and are fit for purpose in light of our new normal. The Office of the Premier is also supporting and providing quality assurance to the Departments of Social Development and Public Works, Roads and Transport on the development of the Provincial Food Security and Nutrition Plan and the Provincial Infrastructure Master Plan. Both plans are aligned with the national and provincial priorities. This process will be completed in collaboration with the provincial and national departments, which are inextricably linked to the implementation of the plans. Providing strategic support and quality assurance to departments by the Office of the Premier on the development of provincial master plans and strategies is pivotal for the alignment of these interventions. This service will be provided through the strategic forum led by the Office of the Premier, bring together all provincial departments, public entities, and our 3 districts. Madam Speaker, there is no better time than now for Mpumalanga Province to take a decisive step that will respond to climate change. The global transition from fossil to renewable energy leaves us with no choice but to prepare ourselves as the province to take advantage of opportunities within the just energy transition value chain. The recent 2-day energy summit we convened has paved the way for the implementation of fundamental steps change the economic system of communities in the coal mining towards towns of Emalahleni, Middleburg, Bethel, Emelo, and Secunda. Our focus now includes the implementation of the adopted resolutions geared towards ameliorating communities in these towns from the impact of the transition. Key amongst the resolution is the creation of economic opportunities and sustainable energy amid the energy provision challenges that we are facing as a country. This will be done through ensuring appropriate, accurate delivery of green economy skills, training and development, driving appropriate local content and trade opportunities for the manufacturing of green technology components, and lastly, the creation of ecosystem that is supportive of the green economy. The Office of the Premier will be the center of coordination of the climate change and just transition program that shall monitor the implementation of these resolutions to give effect to the objectives of the Energy Summit. Madam Speaker, 2022 marks the 26th year since the launch of the Maputo Corridor. Not only has it created trade opportunities between Mpumalanga and the Republic of Mozambique, it has also paved a way for mutually beneficial future economic collaboration. Buoyed by its reputation as the most advanced international development corridor in Africa, we are aspiring to replicate similar initiatives through an increase of foreign direct investment in the province. The Office of the Premier, together with the Department of Economic Development and Tourism and MEGA,
will lead such initiatives that seeks to increase investment attracted through trade and investment promotion. One such initiative is the planned virtual roundtable discussion with business community in the United States of America. This was scheduled for July 2021, as I announced in this August House last year, but was held in abeyance due to the withdrawal of the erstwhile ambassador of the United States of America to South Africa, as well as the unrest that plagued the nation during the month of July 2021. Notwithstanding this, I am happy to announce that discussions with the U.S. Embassy to convene this virtual roundtable discussion are at an advanced stage. This initiative will afford the province an opportunity to present available business opportunities in the various sectors of the provincial economy to the business community organization in the U.S. as part of our drive to attract as much needed foreign direct investments to the province. In addition, the Office of the Premier will initiate processes of establishing partnership with provinces in Egypt, Tanzania, Kenya, and Tunisia as part of the regional integration. Once areas of cooperation have been identified and consensus solidified between both parties, we will initiate inbound or outbound missions to one or two of these countries. An amount of 1.7 million rand has been set aside this financial year to support this initiative. Madam Speaker, we are steaming ahead with measures that will address youth unemployment in Mpumalanga. Through the Mpumalanga Youth Development Fund, our quest to address this matter is on course. In the previous financial year, we succeeded in implementing the first year of the 3-year piloting phase of the Youth Fund. 90 million rand was set aside for disbursement. This amount included funds rolled over from the previous 2020-21 financial year through the support of job creation initiatives and enterprise development. A total of 64 grant applications valued at 81 million rand was approved by an approval committee transferred to the Mpumalanga Economic Growth Agency for disbursement. The 64 approved applications represent successful applicants from the 17 local municipalities of the province. To date, 59.7 million rand of the 81.9 million rand approved for the 64 beneficiaries has been disbursed to 55 youth-owned businesses. The disbursement of funds to the remaining approved companies is currently underway. In this financial year, a total of 60 million rand is set aside for the Youth Fund to cater for the successful applicants in this phase, wherein the closing date for the intake was the 20th of May 2022. A number of applicants from all 17 local municipalities were received. We will double our efforts to finalize the adjudication process and disperse the allocation to youth enterprises with a strong business case in line with the set criteria. Our target to finalize the adjudication of this mammoth task is August 2022. I wish to assure this House that we will assure that the process is conducted with integrity. Any element that suggests otherwise, decisive action will be taken against officials who will undermine the process. Madam Speaker, as we address the socio-economic challenges of the youth, we are mindful of the advocacy role played by the Provincial Youth Development Coordinating Forum. We remain guided by this structure through its efforts of monitoring and implementation of youth development programs. Madam Speaker, we are indebted to the Provincial Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Smakaleng Manamela, and her team of dedicated investigators who apprehended the suspects who committed heinous crimes of gender-based violence in our province. The arrest of suspects in the brutal death of Hilary Gadi, as well as the suspects in the murder of 6-year-old Buntle Mashiane of Mkanduzweni and other victims of gender-based violence and femicide is the result of the countless hours Lieutenant General Manamela and her team have dedicated to fighting crime across the province. Yingako sithi malibongwe igama lamakhosikazi. The team's effort must inspire optimism in our society. It demonstrates that the police are not sleeping in their jobs and that the perpetrators of GBVF should know that their days are numbered whenever and wherever they touch innocent souls. Batawukhomba umuti lonotshwala. Our biggest challenge is to rid Mpumalanga of the scourge that is GBVF. We want women and children to feel safe in their homes and communities. We will soon launch the Provincial Task Team on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide, which will sit on quarterly basis and, amongst others, monitor the implementation of all GBVF-related programs, as well as the implementation of the Provincial Strategic Plan on GBVF. The Office of the Premier will also continue to support and convene dialogues with various civil society formations, including GBVF dialogues with traditional leaders and the men's sector. Madam Speaker, our target of 50% women representation at senior management level remains elusive in our province. Currently, our provincial government is at 38% and 41.6% at head of department level, with male representation at 58.4%. We are mindful of the slight increase by 1.6% in the previous financial year, and this should spur us into aggressive action to improve. We will take the necessary actions to achieve gender equality. The vigorous implementation of the gender-responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, and evaluation and auditing framework is the roadmap towards this target. The provincial department and municipalities have been capacitated on the institutionalization of the framework in partnership with the Department of Women, Youth, and Persons with Disabilities. Due to COVID-19 related restrictions on movements, the office was unable to commence with the development of the baseline report and therefore commits to finalize the baseline report in the current year. The baseline report study will be a detailed assessment report of Mpumalanga province on the empowerment and development of target groups from 1994 to 2020. The primary objective of this exercise is to establish a credible information hub for vulnerable groups that will be linked to the data lab for ease of reference during planning. Again, the baseline information will leverage the establishment of an effective monitoring system that will ensure that implemented programs are traceable and qualitative in terms of the extent to which the targeted programs are able to improve the undesirable status of vulnerable groups. The following are the designated target groups within the OTP: youth, women, persons with disabilities, and older persons. Baseline scientific research study will be commissioned in the current financial year to ensure that the Office of the Premier becomes a repository of well-researched, reliable information pertaining to target groups. Since the migration of the Office of the Status of Disabled Persons from the Department of Social Development to the Office of the Premier, there is a robust drive on advocacy for persons with disabilities using the existing media platforms. The desk continues to monitor the mainstreaming of transformation issues in respect of persons with disabilities. Madam Speaker, nothing will deter us as the province from apprehending the enormous contribution of the struggle stalwarts, especially military veterans, whose patriotic spirit and undiminishing quest to uproot the indelible vestiges of colonialism and segregation and as a democracy and freedom we are all cherishing today. Their steadfastness was explicitly demonstrated in dismantling the dehumanizing shackles of apartheid, mainly characterized by economic exclusion, marginalization through the Group Areas Act, as well as income and asset poverty. Our inner being does not allow us to live in comfort whilst our liberators are subjected to abject poverty. Psychosocial distress and hopelessness. Indeed, their sacrifices have ushered in a new dawn where the freedom that was yearned from time immemorial becomes a reality. In the previous financial year, Madam Speaker, we pledged in this August House to work side by side with the Department of Military Veterans to provide a sustainable solution to the challenges faced by military veterans. Although we have made strides in the provision of housing benefits to military veterans, as 256 units were constructed and handed over to respective recipients to the tune of about 17 million rands. The Department of Military Veterans is still contending with the cleansing of the database to ascertain that the 11 benefits relating to military veterans contained in Act number 18 of 2011 are handed down to the rightful and eligible recipients. In our engagement with military veterans formations on the 7th of June 2022, through the Presidential Task Team led by the Deputy President, Mr. Didi Mabuza, where the plight of military veterans were laid bare, we resolved that the Office of the Premier shall augment the appointment of the Premier's Military Veterans Advisory Committee to ultimately have an inclusive body constituted by all formations of liberation military veterans. The appointments will be made soon to enable the Council and the Office of the Premier to benchmark with other provinces on the best model to address the socio-economic conundrum that the Liberation Army veterans are subjected to year in and year out. The institutionalization of the benefits related to the military veterans will be based on the district development model approach as it fosters collaboration amongst DMV, the province, and local government. Key in our efforts to ameliorate the standards of living to the military veterans is to finalize the verification process of the military veterans database, including the status of their beneficiaries in line with the conditions stipulated in the 7 work streams currently established to ensure effective mainstreaming of the services to be rendered to military veterans. The Office of the Premier will identify officials across government to work with DMV in the 7 work stream, mainly the stream on pension fund and burial support, which has been recently approved to accelerate the delivery of this benefit without delays. Further districts' engagement with military veterans will be held to provide feedback on the efforts of government to transform their living conditions, as it has now critical for provincial departments to develop budgeted program of action to implement the 11 benefits related to military veterans. Madam Speaker, the district development model calls on all 3 spheres of government to work together and maximize resources in one geographic district. The district's plans are now developed, and we are currently reviewing these plans. This process takes into account from the national plan panel that was appointed to assess the plans by National Department of Cooperative Governance and New Development in the Environment. The Office of the Premier is in the process of establishing a provincial infrastructure projects planning and monitoring committee to monitor the key catalytic projects in the province. These projects are strategic in nature and have potential to create more job opportunities and enhance economic growth. The purpose of the committee is to provide technical support in collaboration with the Investment and Infrastructure Office in the Presidency on project pipelining and packaging implementation, monitoring and evaluation of catalytic projects, as well as communicating progress. We have successfully coordinated the presidential DDM Imbizo in Chief Albert Lituli local municipality that took place on the 20th of May 2022. The event was coordinated in collaboration with the presidency, both departments of national and provincial governments, particularly cooperative governance and traditional affairs were at the fore. May I take this opportunity to thank all key stakeholders that participated and contributed to the success of the event. This include our social and business partners that were also part of the business roundtable discussion with the president in the morning and the main event with community members from all 7 local municipalities in the province held at the Silobela Stadium. My special gratitude also extends to the community of Mpumalanga at large, all the 3 district municipalities for my mobilization and the level of discipline displayed, and the people of Chief Albert Lituli municipality. Thank you for the spirit of Ubuntu which you displayed. We are developing an action plan to fast-track the implementation of the resolution and commitments made during the Imbizo. As President Ramaphosa committed on the day, a team of senior officials from the 3 spheres of government will be going back to the Chief Albert Lituli local municipality through the DDM structures to provide feedback on these issues. Madam Speaker, the provincial government continues in its quest to strengthen research capacity in the province. We have commenced with the initiative of forming a partnership arrangement with the University of Mpumalanga and the Tshwane University of Technology. The partnership will culminate in the establishment of the Mpumalanga Research Institute as entity that will support the province through research studies, reflections on emerging trends and policy implementation. To further enhance evidence-based decision-making in the province, 2 research projects will be commissioned from my office during the 2022-23 financial year. Furthermore, the office will commission 2 evaluation studies, one on the boarding schools and the other one on the Sustainable Household Support Program. Madam Speaker, we are exploring measures to strengthen the capacity of monitoring service delivery. This includes creating a dedicated service delivery monitoring unit that will also respond to service delivery complaints using various platforms, including the Satise Silalele application. The Satise Silalele platform will be revamped so that our people can log complaints in real time and monitor the lifespan of each complaint until it is resolved. During the year under review, Madam Speaker, a position and proclamation was made by the National Minister of Communications and Digital Technologies on the rollout of South Africa Connect Phase 2 over 36 months, which replaced the need for the provincial 10-year broadband plan and commenced in April 2022 in the province. The revised SA Connect Phase 2 model and implementation plan, which connects both government and communities, has been approved by National Cabinet and is based on partnership between CETA, Broadband Infraco, and Centec, and includes other industry service providers for the implementation of the South Africa Connect project plan. Connection of South African communities and homes to the internet will be facilitated by Broadband Infraco and Centec, working with CETA and the ICT industry on an open access principle. This will enable the access to backbone infrastructure, including base situation and points of presence, and the visualization of government network to also provide a public network platform. This partnership will enable small and emerging service providers, such as internet service providers, wireless access service providers, mobile visual network operators, and the ICT mobile network operators to connect communities within 36 months. The key objectives in Mpumalanga is to connect citizens within 36 months, from April 2022 to March 2025, at the minimum speed of 5 megabits per second for households and 10 megabytes per second for government facilities, including public schools and clinics. The South African Connect target is to achieve 80% broadband access for all communities and government facilities over the next 3 years, with the minimum capacity speed of 10 megabytes and 100 megabytes per second for high demand facilities. The South African Connect project aims to connect 154,958 households via 22 base stations, with 450 schools and clinics and 175 tribal communities being connected within the first 12 months. This will continue thereafter to provide 516,525 households via 175 base stations, 1,499 schools and clinics, and 582 tribal communities with broadband connectivity. Madam Speaker, the prevention of HIV infection amongst adolescents, girls and boys, young women and men remains a priority for the province in addition to the COVID-19 pandemic. Interventions to mitigate the impact of HIV infections have been expanded to all wards in all municipalities. This has been done in partnership with Presidential Emergency Prevention for AIDS Relief and the Global Fund. This year marks the end of the National Strategic Plan for HIV, TB, and STIs for 2017-2022. The province will conduct the end-term review of the Provincial Implementation Plan for HIV, TB, and STIs in order to inform the new PIP for 2023 to 2028. The province will contribute to the development of the new national strategic for HIV, TB, and STIs through Senec consultative processes. We would like to urge all stakeholders to take advantage of this process and give inputs accordingly. Following the recent local government election in November 2021, the province, working in partnership with the South African National AIDS Council and SALGA, will continue to conduct induction of all AIDS councils on their roles and responsibilities. This will assist in reviving the functionality of all AIDS councils in the province. 2 provincial events marking the World Health Commemorative Days will be coordinated in collaboration with social partners and our Provincial Department of Health. These are World AIDS Day in December 2022 and World TB Day in March 2023. Madam Speaker, The province will also finalize the process of reviewing and enhancing its provincial anti-corruption strategy to ensure alignment with the national strategy. The Office of the Premier continued to investigate reported cases of fraud and corruption impartially. We will continue to investigate and ensure implementation of recommendations to restore public confidence. We will also convene a labor summit with organized labor and other strategic stakeholders to inculcate a culture of accountable and ethical public service premised upon the Batupili principles. Madam Speaker, audit outcomes are a barometer of public institutions' financial discipline in the use of the public purse. The poor audit outcomes continue to be a concern to the provincial government. To improve audit outcomes, the Office of the Premier, in partnership with the Provincial Treasury, will continue to support departments and municipalities whose audit outcomes leaves a lot to be desired, especially on performance information. In 2021-22, through the shared audit services functions, we were able to provide internal audit services to the 5 cluster departments. With regards to improved audit outcomes, the report of the Auditor General shows that 7 departments in the Mpumalanga Provincial Administrations obtained unqualified audit outcomes for the financial year ended 31st March 2021. The province regressed by 3 from the 10 realized in the previous financial year. Departments have developed remedial audit action plans to address all the findings raised by the Office of the Auditor General in the 2021-22 audit. Progress on the implementation of the audit action plans are being monitored by both the Internal Audit and the Audit Committee on a quarterly basis. Furthermore, departments expected to report to the Audit Committee on a quarterly basis on the progress made for both internal audit and Auditor General's issues. The OTP will, in 2022-23, continue to provide internal audit services to these departments and monitor implementation of audit action plans to ensure the realization of improved audit outcomes. In this regard, we will review the efficiency and effectiveness of internal controls in order to assist in the strengthening of the control environment. We have successfully collaborated with Provincial Treasury in its endeavor to automate the business processes in the provincial administration through the business process automation. We have implemented invoice tracking system, which assisted in ensuring that the office complies with the prescripts of paying suppliers within 30 days. Electronic document delivery tools, which delivers payslips and IRP5 to employees electronically. Electronic leave management system, which enables employees to apply for leaves electronically. The office is moving towards the 4th industrial revolution and realizing some benefits that are brought about by these systems. These performance outcomes take into consideration our strategic focus for the next 5 years as detailed in our retable strategic plan for 2020-25 and the annual performance plan for 22-23 tabled to this August House. It is therefore an honor, Madam Speaker, to table the budget of the Office of the Premier, and I accordingly request the House to approve the amount of 377,836,000 rand for the 2022-2023 financial year, allocated as follows. For Program 1, Administration, we have allocated 145 million rands, 350,000 rands. For Program 2, which is Institutional Development, we have allocated 89,392,000 rands. Program 3, which is Policy and Governance, it is allocated 143,084,000 rands. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Premier, for the well-delivered policy and budget speech. The Secretary shall read the second order of the day.
Order number 2, consideration of a report of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism on Vote 1, Office of the Premier.
I'll now call upon the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, Honorable T.M. Makarina, to table the report.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, I rise on behalf of the Portfolio Committee and as a chairperson of Premier's Office to table the policy and budget vote of 377,826,000 presented by Honorable Premier for consideration and adoption by the House.
I'm informed that there's no debate on this report. Now the question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the report as tabled by Honorable Makarina. Agreed to. The Secretary shall read the third order of the day.
Order number 3, policy and budget speech on Vote 2, Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature.
Okay, we are waiting for Honorable Speaker. I'll now call upon the Speaker of the Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature, Honorable MC Masilela, to deliver the policy and budget speech.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, Ms. Tabete, Honorable R.M. Tshwenitsipane, Premier of Mpumalanga Province, members of the 6th Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature, members of the Executive Council, speakers of local municipalities, Director General of the Mpumalanga Provincial Government, Secretary to the Legislature, heads of departments, Provincial Secretary of the ANC, Alliance partners and all progressive forces, Provincial Secretary of the ANC Women's League, ladies and gentlemen, good day, Sanbonani. I have the pleasure to table the 2022-2023 policy and budget speech of the Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature. This budget speech intends to outline the state of the legislature since the establishment of the 6th legislature and outline plans ahead towards an effective parliamentary body of oversight in line with the interest and aspiration of our people. We tabled this budget statement following a marathon of policy and budget speeches of all departments. To this, we must thank members of the executive, the Premier, and honorable members of this House for a job well done. Through the well-delivered speeches and ensuing debates, we are also concluding these sessions of tabling and debate as the country gears up for one of its highlight political calendar events, which commemorate the June 16, 1976 moment. It was a moment that many of this generation understood as a turning point in the teleological direction of dispossession, conquest, against a settler colonial regime constituted since the uninvited arrival of Jan van Riebeeck at the Cape. In so doing, we commemorate these painful events to ensure the unbridled police brutality and unrivaled violence to which these unarmed youth and children were subjected to remains emblematic and etched in the hearts and minds of future generations. This we undertake so that never again, as Madiba elaborated, shall our people suffer indignity and violence at the hands of colonial government. Honorable members, it is to this extent that we dedicate this policy and budget speech to those gallant fighters and the current youth of South Africa. Cognizant of this, we must challenge the youth of today to familiarize themselves with the ideological current of the 1976 movement. That ultimately led to a shifting of the balance of forces towards the forces of democracy and change. This ideological current challenged the institutionalized dehumanization of the black child against the totality of the white power structure, a concern of the black conscious youth at the time. It was an ideological current that resisted the normalization of black pain, black suffering, black subjugation, and alienation of the black life. This was a black radical expression of those coming from the domain of dispossession. It was the reinvention of existence and a project of emergence and becoming. A reinscription that radically reimagined another reality in South Africa through unmasking the politics of mass deception in whose logic apartheid policies of segregation were anchored. More importantly, this moment asserted a rupture that enacted the necessity and rewriting of the condition of colonial apartheid, which forced the future to the present. It was the question of the now. In this regard, the youth of today must problematize our current moment, a product of interrelated and multiple pandemics, the legacy of a historical injustice which constituted a society that suffers the colonial wound of black poverty and black indignity. A society in which, according to Stephen Reddy, one part lives in a world of comfort, fear and guilt, and the other vast majority survives a precarious life of squalor, frustration, and growing anger. This is also a world in which the Italian philosopher Giorgio Agamben termed just bare life. This youth should, however, be cognizant that liberation is not an event, but a process, trials and tribulations. Triumphs, ambivalences, ambiguities, and indeed contradictions are part of the struggle. Further, that the defeat of a formal apartheid was not a panacea of all human problems, but contributed to the goal of the ongoing project of decolonization. To this end, our policy and budget speech possesses the difficult question, what do we understand as the now? What is the name of this time, and how does it pronounce itself? What are the stakes of this time to which we are all confronted? And what are the forces in charge of the levers of power driving this change? In response to these questions, Honorable Deputy Speaker, we invite honorable members in the discharge of their service and duty to wrestle with this tormenting question that underwrite the now as a moment that cannot be postponed. It is lived and experienced in the present. Furthermore, this address seeks to mobilize the current youth in the culture of critical interrogation. To recall the Fononial final prayer when he said, "Oh, my body, make me always a man who questions." Accordingly, our radical socio-economic turn cannot be postponed through what African-American philosopher and literary scholar Lewis Gordon termed as teleological suspension that postpones current problems to future generations. It is time that the snares of this global imperial design must fall, as demanded by the clarion call of the fallist movement, in order that we disentangle our country from the logic of dependency and exploitation. The Mpumalanga Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, to which government has committed itself, must stop short of the opportunity to reconfigure the economy to better respond to the social, cultural, and existential reality of our people. It must inject the necessary agency to radical transformation of the ownership, control, and management patterns of the economy. We are also challenged by our youth to unearth the institutions of power that continue to resist and reproduce inequality and social difference. Our present task is therefore to refashion our efforts to ensure clear government response to these pressing challenges, as well as unwavering pursuit of revolutionary change. On institutional strategy, Honorable Deputy Speaker, informed by several political and strategic guiding policy priorities of the governing party, the National Development Plan, known as the NDP, the legislature sector priorities, our strategic priorities include recalibrating a vibrant parliamentary assembly that transforms society in response to developmental needs and societal justice, an effective oversight machinery that enacts scrutiny of government action against needs of our citizens, an active and involved public on all matters that affect their lives, and a healthy relationship in the spirit of cooperative governance between the legislature, government, and other organs of the state. On support to committees, the Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature Oversight Model, known as MPLOM, remains our guide in implementing the oversight function of the legislature. The MPLOM charts an action plan on how to best provide support to the parliamentary committees while taking cognizance of the unique circumstances of the legislature. The challenge to oversight is growing perception of a weakening state as reports of maladministration and corruption are on the increase. The Zondo Commission report also raised matters that challenge this House, especially on government procurement policies. We are, as various committees, charged with the responsibility to familiarize ourselves with matters of emphasis made in the report. As a legislative sector, we have managed to transform our institution and put in place formal instruments of accountability. We have also created space for organs of civil society to strive. However, what seems to be increasing concern is state legitimacy and credibility. Due to some of these deeply entrenchment, corrupt practices driven by some government employees, politicians, and private sector. What we are witnessing, honorable members, is social and political decadence at an alarming rate as the gains of corruption multiply and morality declines. This cancer has spread quite significantly and become too numerous and too voracious in proportion against the lean spoils of national wealth. Just like cancer, the pain of this social ill touches all of us in some way. It not only disfigures the state, it unfortunately also leaves the scars and wounds that impact on the very social fiber of our communities. And while many do recover, tragically, cancer often leads to chemotherapy, radiation sickness, other debilitating treatments, and eventually death. Consequently, this moral, spiritual, and social death can lead to the disintegration of our very body politic. Theoretically, it is evident that the democratic government has been unable to disrupt the legacy of the apartheid government, which repurposed state resources to entrench racial domination and capitalist exploitation. This is a learned colonial logic of primitive accumulative predatory tendencies and the use of state to create a looter's paradise. Honorable members, this must be defeated. To this extent, Mplom as a living document constantly in the making needs to identify critical skills and tasks requires enhance oversight and enhance the impact of our work. That shall also promote continuous training and development of members and support staff to improve scrutiny and evaluation of government programs. On House proceedings enhanced, to ensure professional House proceedings enhanced, we continuously aim to guarantee that our language service, production and reports are of a high quality. In this regard, we have introduced an electronic portal where all documents being tabled by provincial government are deposited in order to ensure transparency and easy access to information. The records of the House Hansard are now dispatched electronically to all legal deposits. The revised form of these records can now also be accessed from the legislature website under the tab Tabling. Accessing information in the language of one's choice is a constitutional right for every South African. This right is often not realized owing to the technical nature and field-specific terminology occurring in some of our documents. The institution took initiative of making a positive contribution in dealing with this challenge by embarking on a terminology development project which will make it easy to translate technical documents such as bills, etc. On public participation, the legislature continues to involve the public in its processes and programs through public hearings, petition processes, sector parliaments, sittings of the House, and taking legislature to the people, known as TLP. Under the current environment of a reducing budget, we shall begin a process that can innovate some of our key activities through the use of technology and other means. On petitions, awareness and processing, the petition section has, during the period under review, paid attention to education and aid through petitions clinic. We have been able to process 128 petitions and conducted 30 petitions clinic. However, some departments still do not submit progress reports on time, which has affected the turnaround time and feedback to the petitioners. On lawmaking, during the year under review, the Portfolio Committee in the Legislature duly processed 6 national bills affecting provinces and 3 provincial bills, namely upgrading of land tenure rights amendment bill known as B6B of 2020, division of revenue bill known as B3 of 2021, National Forest Amendment Bill known as B11B of 2016, National Environmental Management Laws Amendment Bill known as B14 of 2017, Local Government Municipal Systems Amendment Bill known as B2B of 2019, Division of Revenue Amendment Bill known as B19 of 2021, Mpumalanga Appropriation Bill known as B2 of 2021, Mpumalanga Adjustment Appropriation Bill known as B3 of 2021, Mpumalanga Second Adjustment Appropriation Bill known as B1 of 2022, In compliance with the COVID-19 regulations, public hearings were conducted through hybrid means to ensure communities and relevant stakeholders participate meaningfully. We will, in the period ahead, explore other social and media platforms to broaden and diversify our reach. During the process of the bills by the relevant portfolio committees, written and oral submissions were received from members of the public and relevant stakeholders. In accordance with the mandating procedure of Provinces Act number 52 of 2008, the relevant negotiating and final mandates were submitted in time to the National Council of Provinces, known as NCOP, on all the national bills affecting provinces. On financial governance, in response to the budget cuts and fiscal challenges, the legislature will continue with the cost containment and cost containment measures to ensure that the MPL ably executes its mandate. Honorable members, our environment therefore dictates that the allocated budget is not sufficient to cover all the budget pressures. This is a moment of a reducing budget across government. Due to the reality of multiple and intertwined crises, which includes the impact of COVID-19 pandemic, an economic crisis and financial crisis. Furthermore, the geopolitical tensions outlined by members of this House over the past few days, seen through the increase of prices and the increasing of cost living, indicate a sharpening of contradictions in society, enacting an uncertain future for present and future generations. The present world can be characterized as the reinscription of imperialism by forces of domination that seek to retain the privileges of unipolarity and re-westernization. This is further coupled by a confrontation of unipolarity and forces of the westernization, which seeks to open a world order that is multipolar and more democratic. Thus, it is a moment that demands us to confront the global and domestic environment still underwritten by this pursuit of domination and unbridled capitalist accumulation that creates deepening levels of inequality, abject poverty, and alienation of those at the receiving end of its domination. In this regard, the failure of neoliberalism across the globe, evident since 2008 financial crisis, wreaks havoc in multiple ways. There is declining belief in the legitimacy of neoliberalism and its pledge to trickle down wealth, economic security, and a broadening of equality opportunities. In many ways, public confidence in the state's ability to create employment and the production of institutional possibilities to secure a future are waning. Italian writer, communist and political theorist Antonio Gramsci stated, I open quote, "The crisis consists precisely in the fact that the old world is dying and the new world struggles to be born." To this, he further warned that at the point of transition, a great variety of morbid symptoms appear, which is the time for monsters, close quote. Within our shores, economists, public intellectuals, and academics have suggested that the state of affairs comes as a result of slow growth across most sectors of the economy. As a body responsible for oversight, we must take a keen interest on this impact on ordinary people. This reading must include critical engagement with concrete reality through an application of more relevant analytic and include a more existential philosophical extrapolation of social phenomena that privileges racial, class, and gender differences. As a sector, the impact of the dwindling budget is beginning to affect our ability to fulfill some of our expectations of our constitutional mandate. We therefore seriously need to redesign the manner in which we conduct our business through more creativity and innovation, which includes exploring the maximum use of technology and decentralization some of our activities towards a district-focused model. This will be done to ensure that the mandate of the legislature is not gravely affected by the reduced budget. Some of the traditional activities like sectoral parliaments and SOPA will require urgent redesign that reconsiders the form, content, and the questions of methodology. This we shall undertake to guarantee maximum impact of our activities for the electorate. We are therefore calling for more value for the public resources we spend. The cost for travel and accommodation will require further cuts across the board. We commit to reduce goods and services through restructuring the manner we convene meetings so that as far as possible, Microsoft Teams platform is utilized. The administration will also review budget so that all luxury expenditures are cut and resources reprioritized. Consequently, a culture change is necessary if we are to ensure our sector remains relevant, legitimate, and effective in the eyes of our people. On Provincial Speakers Forum, in line with the sector priorities, the Mpumalanga Provincial Speakers Forum is a platform to share experiences, best practices, and dialogue among speakers at national, provincial, and local level. Following the 2021 local government elections, we have relaunched the Speakers Forum to reaffirm our commitment to a strengthened legislative sector at all levels in the province. Some of our key pillars outlined in our MPSF strategic framework document is to build and strengthen the roles of speakers. This requires that we prioritize capacity building with the strategic intent to enhance leadership and coordination of oversight at all levels. We have noted audit report that outlines the poorly performing municipalities. Since local government sits at the coalface of our communities, we therefore call for government intervention to rescue these struggling municipalities. Our recent Speakers Forum categorically called for leadership stability in some of these municipalities, since it is our people in the main that suffer the consequences. On members' affairs and support, capacity building remains the cornerstone of members' affairs section. It provides honorable members with the necessary skills and knowledge to better execute their constitutional mandate. Our approach to capacity building for members is driven by the legislative sector support program and our legislature development program. Let me take this opportunity and congratulate all members who have successfully completed the graduate certificate in governance and leadership program at the Vet School of Governance and the certificate in public affairs and African studies at the University of Johannesburg. On interparliamentary relations, interparliamentary bodies provide a platform for sharing best practices, persuasion, and integrated learning opportunities. The Commonwealth Parliamentary Association, known as CPA, prides itself as an agent for promotion of democracy, good governance, and human rights throughout its member states. The CPA and CWP structures in the legislature have adopted 5-year roadmap that engage on critical social issues with the aim of deepening social transformation. This includes gender sensitization, elimination of hunger and poverty. On social cohesion and nation building, in line with our strategic outcome orientation goal known as SOOGS, to increase the promotion of nation building and social cohesion, we have resolved to set aside resources to implement legacy projects that respond to socio-economic challenges affecting poor indigent families. This is underwritten by our common vision to promote social compact within our communities and a deepening of values more in sync with indigenous Black people of this land, which is human solidarity and love. According to an African-American feminist thinker, poet and literary scholar Bell Hooks, open quote, "Life is not worth living if we did not know love." Consequently, she elaborated that the search for love continues even in the face of a great odds, close quote. During the period under review, the Speaker Legacy Project visited and made donations to Mashishing, Kachibane, Nkomazi, Governing and Badfontein communities. We therefore call on private sector to partner with us so that we together play our part in the building of more cohesive communities. As I conclude, let me challenge honorable members to join me in the words of Seko Tore, to refashion the future together, to refashion a future with the people, for the people and by the people. This, of course, requires we compose a new narrative, one that is one with the people. This new narrative must inculcate a new cadre of public servant, one that is better immersed in the social, cultural, and spiritual temperament of the people. It also requires that we maybe ask ourselves the same questions differently. David Harvey, a Marxist thinker, once said, "The only way to change the system for good is to change how we fight it." Perhaps a moment has arrived like the June 1976 moment to fight differently our systematic and structural challenges that maintain and reproduce the nature of South Africa as the most unequal nation in the world. Honorable members, I therefore present to you and request this sitting to appropriate for the year 2022-2023 the amount of 371,838,000 rand to the two programs as follows. Program 1, which is administration, 175,876,000 rand. Program 2, which is parliamentary business, 195,962,000 rand. Finally, let me take this opportunity to thank the Deputy Speaker for hitting the ground running and picking up the baton of leadership from her predecessor. The Chief Whip of the Majority Party, the presiding officers, leaders of political parties, and all members of the legislature for your valued contribution and support. The Premier, Mayor Refilwe Mtsweni-Tsipane, and members of the Executive Council for your continued cooperation and hard work, making the business of the legislature run more smoothly. Thank the Secretary, management, and staff that ensure a professional administrative support to all members of the legislature. Lastly, thank my family, which remains my pillar of strength and support. I table the policy and budget statement for the financial year 2022-2023 and request the sitting to appropriate and approve the amount as proposed. Ria Leboga, Nkosi Sikeleli, Africa. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the well delivered policy and budget speech. The Secretary shall read the fourth order of the day.
Order number 4, consideration of a report of the Select Committee on Legislature Oversight on Vote 2, Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature.
I will now call upon the Chairperson of the Select Committee on the Legislature Oversight, Honorable F.V. Mlombo, to table the report.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, thank you very much. I rise to table the report as presented by the Honorable Premier, the Honorable Speaker, for this August House to accept it. Thank you.
I'm informed that there's no debate on this report now. The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the report as tabled by Honorable V. F. Mlombo. Agreed to. The Secretary shall read the fifth order of the day.
Order number 5, policy and budget speech on vote 3, provincial treasury.
I now call upon the MEC for Finance, Economic and Development and Tourism, Honorable P.V. Mkhatshwa, to deliver the policy and budget speech.
Thank you very Sorry, thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. You will pardon me, I've flu, Honorable Speaker, but it's not COVID. Greetings to the Honorable Speaker and the Deputy Speaker, the Honorable Premier, Mam Refilwe Mthweni-Tsipane, colleagues in the Executive Council, Chief Whip of the Majority Party, and the Leader of the Official Opposition, Honorable Members of the Provincial Legislature, Director General, HODs, and all senior government administrators, the leadership of the trade unions, citizens of Mpumalanga, and ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Honorable Deputy Speaker, it is my distinct honor to table the budget vote for Provincial Treasury for the 2022-23 financial year to this August House. We present this budget vote in the context of continuing difficult global economic and fiscal environment. The International Monetary Fund postulates that most sub-Saharan countries are experiencing economic setbacks in the backdrop of the global health pandemic. Furthermore, the ongoing geopolitical tension between Russia and Ukraine, which is continuing unabatedly, continues to have direct and dire economic impact on the economy. While South Africa's economy is in the recovery phase, the global phenomenon of high inflation continues to create another layer of discomfort and possible economic shocks in the short to medium term. As a result, it has become increasingly difficult for the South African consumers to buy essentials, use public transport, and afford other essentials due to rising costs, which have significantly affected, in the main, the low-income households. However, as the provincial government, we have an existential task to put in place key and tangible plans to mitigate these challenges and ensure the citizens of Mpumalanga are cushioned against these tensions. As articulated during the occasion of the tabling of the provincial budget earlier this year, we will continue to use all available strategic levers highlighted in our Economic Recovery Plan, APP, and the premier states of the province to address poverty, unemployment, and inequality, while responding to the damaging impact of COVID-19 on the economy and livelihoods of our people. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the primary role of the Provincial Treasury is to prepare a budget that reflects the government's social and economic priorities and gives substance to the reforms and development commitments of the state. As the custodian of the fiscal framework in the province, the Provincial Treasury must be alive to the significant risk to the fiscal outlook and promote efficiencies in managing budgets internally and throughout the administration. In this regard, we will continue to promote sustainable resource management through the preparation of a provincial budget that prioritizes service delivery and monitoring spending and reporting on the budget implementation in both the PFMA and MFMA institutions in the province, amongst others. One of the priority initiatives in the 2022-2023 financial year is the expenditure reviews in selected provincial government departments. The reviews will assist us to identify necessary cost control measures and support if efforts to ensure spending, prudency, and continuity to service delivery programs. Honorable Deputy Speaker, Section 18 of the Public Finance Management Act, Act number 1 of 1999, requires the Provincial Treasury to promote and enforce transparency and effective management in respect of revenue, expenditure, assets, and liabilities of provincial departments and provincial public entities. To ensure the credibility of the provincial budget, we have embarked on the verification of the provincial government payroll covering 83,106 employees who are registered on the PESAL system. The principal objective of this exercise is to ensure that public funds are paid to existing personnel who are contributing to the functioning of the state. This project is anticipated to be completed in the second quarter of 2022. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the provincial revenue collection is critical to augment the service delivery programs. While the provincial revenue stream contributes 3.4% of the total budget source in 2022-23, it is an important financing policy area with an excellent discretionary element that enables the government to respond to the province-specific service delivery needs. The provincial owned receipts are projected to increase from 1.9 billion in 2022-2023 to 2 billion in 2023-2024 as the province continues to implement the revenue enhancement strategies. We call upon all revenue collecting departments, such as the Departments of Health and Community Safety, Security and Licensing, to strengthen controls and collect as much as possible to assist the provincial government to expand the reach of the service delivery programs. We also like to appeal to our entities, Mpumalanga Economic Regulator and the Mpumalanga Tourism and Parks Agency, to work together and make it possible for tourists to enjoy the scenery and spend more in our facilities while promoting responsible gambling in the province. Honorable Deputy Speaker, one of the primary mechanisms of contributing to economic growth and improving the lived experience of the community is through investment in public infrastructure. The province has allocated 14.1 billion for new infrastructure over the MTEF, of which 9.01 billion is earmarked to maintain existing public infrastructure. We are indeed taking care of our prized assets to increase their lifespan and to make a lasting impact on communities and the overall economy of the province. The Provincial Treasury has established a pool of industry experts to enhance the monitoring and oversight of the performance of construction projects to ensure value for money. Deputy Speaker, the management and implementation of variation orders in departments are an emerging risk to the fiscus, resulting in project overruns and a high cost of service delivery. We urge all accounting officers to implement proper project management practices and procurement controls to prevent the likelihood of such occurrence in their institutions. While the Treasury regulations recognize that variation orders above a policy-determined threshold may only be submitted to the relevant Treasury where good reasons exist, but inadequate planning is not one of those reasons. All departments must ensure that projects are delivered within the approved timeframes, scope, and budget. And Honorable Deputy Speaker, in order to streamline processes and ensure efficiencies across the financial management portfolio, the Provincial Treasury initiated a business automation project, commencing with the introduction of electronic solutions for the compilation of financial statements, management of leave, and transacting and invoicing of services rendered. In terms of the invoice tracking system, we have successfully introduced the tracking system to track the invoices and payment status. The system is fully functional and utilized by all provincial departments. Suppliers are now able to submit their invoices electronically and track the status of their payments online, while departments have a proper audit trail of their invoices submitted to ensure that they pay service providers within 30 days as regulated. Provincial Treasury will continue conducting training and awareness to ensure that all the functionalities of the suppliers portal are utilized and that all suppliers experience the efficiency of the system. To further continue with the business processes, business process automation project this year, 100 million is allocated mainly to support the departments of education and health in implementing new technologies such as e-submission and electronic health record management systems, respectively. The latter is crucial to reducing the high legal claims caused by the lack of accessible, relevant, complete and real-time records of patients for management, amongst others. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the supply chain management function is one of the conduits through which government should achieve its service delivery and developmental objectives in a sustainable manner. The SCM reforms that are currently being implemented seeks to ensure that the government derive value through the public procurement processes while ensuring that the constitutional values of fair, efficient and cost-effective, equitable and transparency are attained in the process of sourcing goods and services. The Provincial Treasury will continue to embed transparency and integrity in the SCM value chain and support initiatives that will enhance the public sector procurement system. To this end, we will introduce probity audits for high value and high risk bids in the quest to assure the public of the integrity of the procurement value chain in the provincial administration. The Provincial Treasury will also continue to explore other digital means to improve the efficiencies in the procurement value chain. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the current state of finance in our municipalities requires us to focus on improving efficiencies throughout the local government system. There is a need for a concerted effort to improve billing systems and ensure full implementation of credit controls measures to address the municipal cash flow challenges. The Provincial Treasury will align its strategies with the local government reform agenda, which aims to ensure financial sustainability through improved fiscal discipline and funded budgets, improved management across the revenue value chain, and financial and business reform through the M-SCORE unfunded budgets. Sorry for that. The unfunded budgets, Honorable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, are the main reason for the municipalities not being able to honor their financial obligations. We must be intolerant of this practice and take corrective action before it is too late. The Provincial Treasury will continue to engage municipalities with a view to improving budget preparation and cash flow management through the mid-year budget and performance reviews, annual budget benchmark sessions, and the quarterly MUNIMEC meetings. We want to caution municipalities once more that failure to adopt credible budget will lead to the invocation of Section 216 of the Constitution by withholding municipalities' equitable share until the municipality corrected this breach of financial management prescripts. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the increase of outstanding debt towards bulk suppliers, of which ESCOM is one, is a reflection of municipalities' challenges to generate sufficient income to honor their financial obligations. Provincial Treasury is monitoring the payment of ESCOM monthly current accounts by municipalities, and municipalities are urged to ring-fence electricity revenue and to pay all electricity revenue towards their ESCOM accounts. Working together with COCTA, district municipalities and SALGA, we will assist municipalities to develop credible payment plans for their bulk debt and support them to implement an effective system of financial management and governance to ensure their financial sustainability and viability. Hey, thank you very much. Yeah, chairs. Honorable Deputy Speaker, municipalities will further be assisted to improve standard operating procedures in supply chain management, asset management, contract management, revenue management, and ensure that budgets meet the legislative requirements. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development argues that, I open quote, without effective and inclusive public sector governance and institutions, development may be wasted and the prospects for economic transformation compromised. I close quote. To this end, the Provincial Treasury will continue to engage all the public sector institutions to entrench the value system of good governance and accountability as espoused in the Constitution and other enabling legislation. Targeted support will be provided to assurance and governance structures to execute their legislated mandates effectively. As part of the ongoing support, we will facilitate the development of audit improvement plans and provide quality assurance reviews to enable departments, public entities, and municipalities to address all qualifying matters in the audits of their provincial institutions. We will further subject internal audit plans for departments, entities, and municipalities to stringent reviews to ensure that high-risk areas identified are incorporated into the internal audit plans. There must be a realization, though, that improving audit outcomes is the responsibility of all of us, executive authorities of departments and public entities, municipal councils, accounting officers, and governance structures. We want to appeal to all governance and assurance structures to be steadfast in their assigned responsibilities by providing independent assessments and feedback on financial management and governance matters in all the institutions in the interest of the society. Honorable Deputy Speaker, a capable developmental state requires effective and coordinated institutions with knowledgeable and skilled public servants who are committed to the public good. To this effect, to give effect to this priority, the Provincial Treasury, in partnership with sector stakeholders, continues to implement professional certification programs targeting officials in the financial administration in all our departments, public entities, and municipalities. Our partnership with the South Africa Institute of Professional Accountants has resulted in 15 officials being accredited as professional accountants in the last financial year. To further build a pool of qualified and accredited financial practitioners and accelerate work experience programs for youth in the province, the Provincial Treasury has enrolled 30 graduates in the Public Finance Learnership Development Program for the 2022-2023 financial year. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I will now turn to allocations to programs and highlight the allocations of the budget to 4 programs that will enable the implementation of the Provincial Treasury's priorities. Program 1, which is administration, is receiving an amount of 127.8 million. Program 2, sustainable resource management, is allocated 93.1 million. Program 3, Assets and Liabilities Management gets 291.7 million. Program 4, Financial Governance receives 53.8 million. And the total budget appropriated to the Provincial Treasury for the 2022-2023 financial year is 566,548,000 rand. We are confident, Honorable Deputy Speaker, that the resources allocated will continue to help us to ensure resource management, drive fiscal discipline, and promote good governance in the province. And as I conclude, I would like to thank the Honorable Premier and the colleagues in the Executive Council for their invaluable support, the Chairperson and members of the Portfolio Committee for their constructive engagement on the annual performance plans, the head official, the management team, and all officials of the Provincial Treasury for their continued support of the work that we do. And it is my pleasure, Honorable Deputy Speaker, to table the budget for the Mpumalanga Provincial Treasury before the Provincial Legislature for consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable MEC Mkachwa, for well-delivered speech. The Secretary shall read the sixth order of the day.
Order number 6, consideration of a report of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism on Vote 3, Provincial Treasury.
I now call upon the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, Honorable T.M. Makaringa, to table the report.
Thank you again, Honorable Deputy Speaker. I rise again as a chairperson of the Portfolio Committee and on behalf of the Committee of Mighty Provincial Treasury to table the policy and budget vote with the amount of 371,838,000, which Honorable P.V. Mkhanjwa has just presented for this August House for consideration and adoption. Thank you.
I'm informed that there's no debate on this report. Now the question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the report as tabled by Honorable T.M. Makaringa. Agreed to?
Agreed.
Honorable members, that brings us to the end of the morning session. The proceedings of the House is suspended until afternoon at 2:15. 14:15.
All right.
Oh, they do, yeah. It is actually speaking. So must I pretend like I'm talking? And
Oh, Insta. You wanna go into Insta now?
no, do you know what happened? I actually had I had a crisis. The weapons of mass destruction was showing when I was doing my speech.
Is it?
So now I can use those pictures here. My breast is all over the camera. Okay. So, yeah, because the mic is on. And they were saying now that, oh, some hands.
Boarding from your country. You won't board them.
Less than the congregation.
Immigration. Immigration now, you can't go out without your yellow fever certificate. I don't arrange it that day, but the COVID flu was that same. Just took so many days.
I think it's nice because